God, that is an amazing line. Hey guys, it's Rishab, and I'm bringing you my review of X-Men Apocalypse. X-Men Apocalypse is directed by Bryan Singer and stars the cast of the First Class movies, while also adding some new additions such as Olivia Munn, Alexandria Shipp, Cody McPhee, Ty Sheridan, Sophie Turner, Oscar Isaac, and a bunch of other people. So, X-Men Apocalypse, it's about Apocalypse, who is considered the world's first mutant and one of the most powerful mutants in existence. And basically, he reawakens from a deep slumber in the 1980s, and he doesn't like what he sees. So he basically wants to return Earth to its former glory. He feels like the weaklings, as in like humans, have taken over and they don't deserve to be in power. So he wants the world to be what it was when he was alive, back when mutants ruled the world. So he plans to destroy the world while also saving the mutant race and bringing them into power. And now it's up to the X-Men to stop Apocalypse. So this was actually based off the comics X-Men Apocalypse, the Apocalypse saga from the old comics. And as a longtime X-Men fan, I felt like this movie did a great justice to the comic. Like I haven't felt this good about an X-Men movie since Days of Future Past in 2014. So I feel like this was a really good movie. In fact, it's probably my favorite comic book movie of the year. So let's get into this review. So first of all, I really love the acting. Like the original cast, like they really brought it. James McAvoy as Charles Xavier. I loved him as Xavier. And like you see that he's more in control of his powers. He's not like the I guess scared, paranoid person he was in Days of Future Past. So I really loved seeing him as Charles Xavier, and I hope to see more of him in future films. Michael Fassbender is probably my favorite performance of the movie, and I love him as Magneto. Like Ian McKellen is good, but in my opinion, Michael Fassbender is the better Magneto. And I really liked seeing his story in this movie. In fact, his story was probably the most interesting for me in this movie. So I really love him as Magneto, and I can't wait to see him in future films. The rest of the old cast, they were good. They were Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, Rose Byrne as Agent McTaggart. They were all good, but I really want to talk about the new cast because since they're the new additions. So let's start off with the Horsemen. So Magneto is obviously one of the Horsemen, but the other three Horsemen are Psylocke, played by Olivia Munn, Storm, played by Alexandria Shipp, and Angel, played by Cody McPhee. No, wait, my bad. Angel was played by Ben Hardy. Cody McPhee was Nightcrawler. That's my mistake. So the Horsemen, for the most part, they weren't that great. I felt like they were a bit too much hyped in the commercials and the marketing. My favorite Horseman was actually Storm, because I felt like she was the most developed out of the Horsemen after Magneto. So I really loved Alexandra Shipp as Storm, and I felt like she was a way better Storm than Halle Berry. And like she wasn't developed that much, but besides Magneto, out of the four Horsemen, she was developed the most, and I really liked her story. And I can't wait to see more of her in future films. The other two Horsemen, Psylocke and Angel, I felt like they were a bit generic. Ben Hardy and Olivia Munn, they both delivered good performances, but I felt like they were a bit generic. They weren't that developed, and I hope that in future films they develop more. Ben Hardy as Angel, yeah, he was just like a typical, I guess, jock type of person, and I really didn't like his character at all, even though he gave a good performance. And I hope they fix that, because Angel is supposed to be one of the most important X-Men in terms of the Apocalypse saga, so I hope they fix it. And Psylocke, I was really disappointed in her because, as I've said in my trailer reviews, Psylocke is actually my favorite X-Men of all time, so I was really excited to see her on the big screen. Olivia Munn did a great job, but I felt like she didn't get the justice she deserved. She wasn't on screen for very long. She didn't have that many lines. And all of her sword practice that Olivia Munn had done, it was only for literally one fight scene that she had in the movie. And I felt like they could have done more with Psylocke, and she was the least developed of the Horsemen in my opinion. So I really hope that they incorporate her into future films, especially a Deadpool sequel, because Psylocke is one of Deadpool's closest allies. So I hope to see more of her in like a Deadpool or X-Men movie. So that's the Four Horsemen. As for the new recruits, like the X-Men, we have Ty Sheridan as Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, and I really liked him as Cyclops because we got like an origin story for Cyclops. Because in the first X-Men movie, Cyclops, like team was already formed. Wolverine was a new recruit, apart from Rogue. So I really like seeing his origin, especially since they incorporated his brother Havoc into it, like Alex Summers from the First Class movie. Like they incorporate him into the movie, so it was like cool seeing their brother dynamic. Like both of them are mutants, and they both like shoot lasers out of some parts of their bodies. So and I really like Ty Sheridan as Cyclops. I felt like he did a great performance as Cyclops, especially the origin of Cyclops. Cody McPhee, as I said before, he played Nightcrawler, aka Kurt Wagner, and Nightcrawler, like he's always been a pretty cool X-Men in my opinion. For those of you who don't know, he's like his powers are teleporting, right? But he's also good in hand-to-hand combat. So, like this was another origin for him, and I've actually felt sad for Nightcrawler in the beginning of the movie, like the way we find out, like we're introduced to him. I won't say what, but if it was like a heartbreaking moment for Nightcrawler, and I was glad to see that they did a good job with him in this movie. I mean, it wasn't as good as his performance in X-Men 2, Nightcrawler, but I felt like this Nightcrawler is pretty good. And yeah, my favorite new recruit, Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. So Sophie Turner is best known for her performance in Game of Thrones as Sansa Stark, and that was actually a breakout performance. And I really loved her as Sansa Stark, and her performance as Jean Grey made me love her more. I felt like she did a better job than Femke Jensen, and Jean Grey, like I loved her origin, and I loved her storyline a lot in this movie. Like she's having troubles controlling her powers, and like Xavier and all, they're doing their best to help her, but yeah, they don't really know what to do. And I really love every scene that she was in, especially the scene like during the final battle. Like that's like her big moment, and I really love that scene, and I can't wait to see how they explore that scene in future films and what it means for future films. So just keep an eye out for that scene. And overall, the acting was great. The direction, as always, Bryan Singer brings it to the X-Men movies. I loved his first two movies of the original trilogy, and I love Days of Future Past. And he brings his style and bravado back with X-Men Apocalypse. I felt like he did a great job with X-Men Apocalypse. Especially dealing with Apocalypse, who's played by Oscar Isaac. Sorry, I forgot to talk about him. Oscar Isaac, I loved him as a... Okay, I can't say I loved him. I liked him as Apocalypse. This was a way better role than him as Poe Dameron in Star Wars last year. So it was like cool seeing him like go from like a hero role in Star Wars to like the big baddie in the X-Men movies. So I liked him as Apocalypse. His origin, in my opinion, is kind of boring and generic. But other than that, I loved his performance, and Apocalypse was a really good villain. But I still think Magneto is the best villain X-Men has had so far. But Apocalypse is a pretty close second. So yeah, I really loved Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse, and Bryan Singer, he did a great job directing this movie. In my opinion, it's the second best X-Men movie after Days of Future Past. Now the story, it was pretty good. Like I said, it followed the Apocalypse comics pretty closely, and in my opinion, it's the most comic book accurate movie in a long time. So props to Bryan Singer for that. And for those of you who don't know, Apocalypse is like I guess one of the worst villains in the X-Men universe, and he's like the god. He's considered a god among mutants. He's like the most powerful mutant, and he's damn near unbeatable. So the fact that they did it, like they incorporated his story really pretty well into this, it was pretty good. I would have liked to see a bit more destruction in the movie. Like the way the trailer showed it, like it showed the entire world was ending, and they do that in the movie, but I felt like the trailer showed more destruction than what made it to the final cut. So I felt like Apocalypse could have done more. And Apocalypse did have some moments where he felt like he was holding back, like he could have done more against the X-Men. But other than that, I really loved Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse, and I really loved Apocalypse. Um, so there were some stuff about this movie that I didn't like personally. First of all, like I said, Psylocke, she's my favorite X-Men. I really wish they did her more justice. Angel, I really didn't like what they did with him either, even though he's like probably the most important X-Men to the Apocalypse storyline. Um, the Wolverine camp, the scene, like they showed in the last trailer, it was good, but I felt like same way Spider-Man in Civil War, I felt like Wolverine was just there for fan service. Like he served more of a purpose than Spider-Man did in Civil War, but again I felt like they're similar in the fact that they were both fan service. So I felt like Wolverine didn't need to be there that much, but his scene was pretty cool. It was probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I really didn't like that they brought Jennifer Lawrence in as the leader. Like, she did a great job as Mystique, but I feel like she's not a great Mystique. She's an okay Mystique. Even Jennifer Lawrence herself has said that she doesn't want to do Mystique anymore, that she doesn't like the X-Men franchise. And she even said in an interview she prefers to look as Jennifer Lawrence instead of the typical blue that we're used to for Mystique. So I really didn't like that. And I guess it kind of biased into my head when I was seeing her performance as Mystique. So I really didn't like her as Mystique. And the fact that they tried to make her the leader in this situation. I felt like they could have done it with someone else, like Beast. Now, obviously, they can't do Cyclops yet, even though he is the leader of the X-Men, since he's just starting out. But I felt like they could have done Beast as a leader. He would have made a better leader. And hands down, the best scene in this movie was a scene involving Quicksilver. And I felt like this scene was way better than the kitchen scene in Days of Future Past, which I'm sure is pretty hard to believe. So I really loved the Quicksilver scene in this movie. It's probably my second favorite scene in this entire movie. So overall, guys, this had great acting, great direction. It was a pretty good story. It followed the comics pretty closely. There were some character developments that could have been better, and there were some moments that didn't need to be in there. Some of the acting was okay. It could have been better. Mystique, I really didn't like her character at all in this movie. But overall, the new cast, the new recruits like Sophie Turner and all, I can't wait to see more of them in future films, and I can't wait to see where they take us, like the certain storyline in this movie. I can't wait to see if they explore it in future films, because I really want to see Bryan Singer direct a certain X-Men storyline in the future. So overall, guys, this was a really good experience. I suggest you go watch this movie. If you're an X-Men fan, you'll love this movie. If you're a comic book fan, you'll love this movie. If you're a casual moviegoer, you might find this an okay experience. It's not the best X-Men movie, but it's definitely up there. So I'm going to give X-Men Apocalypse an 8.5 out of 10. So that's my review of X-Men Apocalypse. So if you've seen the movie already, what did you think about it? And who's your favorite X-Men of all time? And also, which X-Men would you like to see in a future film that we haven't seen yet? So whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.